Hello guys and welcome. I'm really excited to make this Vel Koz guide. I think Vel Koz is a really powerful character and needs some love. I think he has a lot of potential and he has pretty much one of the highest AP damage out of any mage in my opinion. So starting it off, let's talk about his masteries. This page works best for me and so far it's found to work pretty good. You'd run 12 ferocity, 18 cunning. Most importantly is the keystone. If you don't know what a keystone is, it's any of the final one on the mastery list for either of them. So these three or these three or these three. You don't want to run any of these unless you're a tank. And you don't run Wind Speaker's Blessing when you're a support, basically, a healing support. And you only run Storm Raider Surge if you're like an idiot. So basically, you're going to want to take Thunderlord's Decree. It gives you so much extra damage, especially since your passive can proc it. So it works out quite nicely. So for example, if you land your E and just one W, you're going to get off your Thunderlord's Decree. Plus you can just auto attack them to get it off. It's just quite nice. It gives you a lot of extra damage and burst potential, especially late game in a team fight. Whenever you hit someone with like your ultimate, when you're AoEing them all, then the Thunderlords is going to AoE on them as well. So it's going to be lots of damage. But anyways, down the Ferocity line, I like to take Sorcery, Feast. Feast is very nice for your sustain, especially in a hard matchup like against a Yasuo or Zed or something. And then Vampirism, just like with Feast, it helps keep you in lane. And then Oppressor gives you a lot of extra damage, especially when they're being CC'd. And since you already have some slows and stuff, you have some slows and a knockup, it's going to give you a lot of extra damage. 2.5% is actually quite a bit considering how much damage you're going to be putting out. And then for the cunning, you're going to want to take Wander for the movement speed. Secret Stash is quite nice. You can't really use Runic Affinity because Vel Koz's mana costs are deceptively low, and especially with the items you're going to build, you're not really going to need Runic Affinity. You're going to need the Secret Stash for the early game. You could make Assassin work, but you're really not going to be getting any kills 1v1, and if you are, the person you're playing against isn't very good anyways. Merciless is very, very nice on Vel Koz. It gives them a lot of extra damage. Dangerous Game's good. Precision, I wouldn't suggest taking Intelligence. You could make that work, but it's not really that great. And you might be saying Meditation for the mana regen. But once again, Vel Koz isn't really that mana hungry in my opinion, and you can really make do with just a few items to provide mana for him. So just, like I said, Merciless, Dangerous Game, Precision for the piercing damage, and then Thunderlord's Decree for massive, massive damage. Let's talk about the runes. Alright, so for my runes, I like to run flat AP Quints, flat Magic Pen Reds, scaling AP Blues, and then I like to run, and this is a versus like mage versus AP. So this is for if you're playing against someone who's ability power, like say you're playing against like Veigar or Kale or Lux or something. There's no point of running really armor in your seals, especially since you shouldn't be getting auto attacked by them that much anyways, and their auto attacks don't matter that much since they're AP. They're not going to be doing that much damage with them. It's actually better to run health than armor in a matchup against an AP person. And whether you're going to run flats or seals whether you're going to run flat or scaling health on your seals is really up to you. It depends on how you play and how well you play. I like to run a little bit of both. And whenever you're going against an AD person, it's important that you take flat armor seals because it really gets you through the laning phase. And then you're going to, once again, you're going to run flat AP Quint, flat Magic Pen Reds, like I said, flat armor seals. And then for my AP, I like to run a few flats and then some cooldown. But you could easily get away with just running flat AP Blues. It doesn't matter that much. This is just my preference. Then for your items, the really cool thing about Vel Koz is he's super diverse and has a lot of different choices. He's very situational and what he should build. So you really need to think about it and know what you're doing. So for your starting items, 99% of the time you're going to start Doran's Ring 2 health pots, everything you need, mana regen, health, and then the warding totem of course. On your first back, you don't have to get your boots. I think it's important that you should, especially since you're going to be doing some roaming. I like to pick up my boots, and if you're really far ahead, like if you're farming well, you should have enough to pick up your chalice and your boots probably. And if you're not really far ahead, just go ahead and pick up your boots, Doran's Ring. Go ahead and try to pick up some of the fairy charms for your chalice. It'll give you some extra mana regen, and pick up a health potion or two. So you don't have to get your chalice on your first back. And if you're a little bit behind, go ahead and pick up a second Doran's Ring. And then later on in the game, this is very important. I usually like to get a full item before I upgrade my boots again, because Vel Koz, with the way you're playing him, you're not really going to need your boots before you get a full different item. So if you're against an AP person, Ziggs, Lux, Kel, Veigar, etc., you're gonna rush the Chalice. It's gonna give you some magic resist, a good amount of ability power, cooldown reduction, and a whole shitload of mana. If you get the Athena's Unholy Grail, you're really never gonna run out of mana. Mana just won't be an issue simply. So that's really nice if you're in an AP matchup. But if you're against an AD person, you should really consider rushing Zhonya's, especially against Zed, because Zed will just completely one-shot you, especially if he takes Ignite. Because Zed with Ignite, a good Zed with Ignite and Thunderlords can one-shot you when he's level 6, unless you land your E, but if it's down, he's just going to all-in you. Plus, if you miss your E, you're going to be in a deep load of shit. So once again, it's just nice to get Zhonya's if you're playing against an AD person. And if you feel like you're not going to have enough mana, go ahead and pick up the Doran's Ring on your first back, your Doran's Ring, boots, and potions, and then build towards your Zhonya's, and you really should have enough mana with the 2 Doran's Rings. And it's important to get Sorcerer's Shoes. You can get the cooldown boots, the Boots of Lucidity. I don't suggest it, because the way that Vel Koz works in a fight is you pretty much drop your load in the team fight. You drop your load, and then that's it, usually. And when you drop your load, you just drop it all at once, you know what I mean? You don't have time to get spells back off the cooldown and keep dropping. You just drop your load all at once, and that's when Sorc Shoes are helpful because it gives that extra magic pen. So like I said, Athena's Unholy Grail for AP matchup, Zhonya's for AD matchup plus the Doran's Ring. And then after you've gotten either one of these items in your boots, I usually suggest getting the Void Staff, but if you're going to be roaming a lot and you know what you're doing, get Luden's Echo. It'll give you good movement speed, loads of damage. Or if you're playing a little bit safer, going the Riley's is very nice. It gives you loads of slows. All your spells are damaging AP, and so that's really nice because it applies Riley as slow, which is really good. And finally, I know I'm rambling on a little bit, but I really love the items he can build. There's another option you can do, which I think is really neat. Early game, if you're against an AD person like Zed or Yasuo and you're having some trouble, if you like Rod of Aegis, you can actually build Rod of Aegis and it works out quite nicely because once Rod of Aegis, because you know over time it gets more and more stats. Well, after like 8 minutes or whatever, you pretty much have all your stats on it and it will give you 120 ability power, which is a lot, and just tons of health. It gives you 600 health and a bunch of mana. Not to mention, every time you level up, it gives you 150 health and 200 mana. So it's a really nice item against an AD person as well. So basically, go Athena's Holy Grail against AP, against AD, get the Doran's Ring, and then build towards Hourglass. Or if you're a stud muffin, you can go ahead and get Callous Protector. That's about it. And on one last note, if you do get Riley's, and if their team's pretty damn tanky, getting Lysandre's Torment before you get Void Staff is a viable choice. It's just something you're going to have to mess around with and see what works best. I find typically I like going Riley's and Lysandre's Torment because they really synergize quite well together. That's about it for Masteries and Runes and items. Let's go into some gameplay. Alright, so when you first get the lane, I usually start Q. You're supposed to start Q and then pretty much max your W. I've been getting away with maxing my Q first and just using angles and bullying them with it, but you should really start Q. Try to farm as best as you can. Don't let them bully you. Don't take that shit. You gotta hit them back. So start Q, then get your W, and then your E. After that, you should really max your W, and then just push lane, farm as well as you can. And when the lane's pushed, they pretty much can't kill you because you just push it, you walk back to your tower, or you can roam, and it's a really good option. Here you see they're playing really aggressive, and it was important that you saw I landed my E, and so that gave me a lot more health. And then after that, we can just follow it up, and you saw I pretty much bursted down Zed with my kit pretty well. I got within range of my turret, turned around, hit him with my Q, and your Q does a pretty hefty slow, and that gave Xin Zhao enough time to get in there and start messing him up. Bear in mind, Zed did start Ignite, and I took Teleport, and even then. So like you see here, I'm pushing lane really, really hard, and it's important. Once you're about to push lane or you push lane, tell your bot lane and ping them that you're going to come. It's very important so that way they're ready. And then once they are aware you're coming and you push lane, you can go ahead, head bot. You usually want to open up with your Q, then your E, then drop your W, and then ult. Your ult is the last key in your combo. It's important that you Q them first typically because your Q will slow them enough that you can land your E easily. Because after you land your E, your W is quite nice because it has a lot of damage. but you can't really land your W and get off the second proc on it unless you've landed your E, because they won't be sitting there long enough. So pretty much it's going to be Q, E, W, ult. That's going to be your combo. You usually won't even have enough time to use both of your W's. So like you see here, just came in, dropped my load. Janet is going to die here because it's kind of stupid the way it turned out, but Janet kind of sacrificed herself unnecessarily, but we do pick up 2 kills, and I'm getting pretty damn fed just from roaming. Like you see, I get the lane, I push, and whenever you push lane, when you're maxing your W, 2 W should be able to kill the whole wave once you have a couple of levels on it. That's why you're supposed to max it. But for me, since I maxed my Q, I did not. I just simply would W the wave, let it about to go off, and then I would E it. So just W and E. Here, once you get a little bit more confidence, you can start doing cooler stuff. What I should have done there is actually right as they came out of the tunnel, I should have E'd, Q'd, then ulted. But I didn't. I just Q'd and didn't E because I felt like I was going to miss it, even though I probably was going to land it. So like you see here, I push mid, I say I'm going to come bot. You got to ping it. It's important that you roam with Vel Koz because a lot of the times you can't get a kill in lane. So like you see, I open up with my Q. I haven't used my W yet because I know she was going to juke like a bitch. So I opened with my Q. I W'd second to get off some damage. And then I waited to use my E. I did miss it, but it didn't really matter. And it's nice that you run teleport and flash as well. So you can do some nice things like this. I just teleport in, drop my Q, and then I ulted. I even killed Tristana, who gotten a decent distance away because your ult has such long range. Plus I did loads of damage on Bard, so it put us quite a bit ahead. When you do have your ult up, it's important that you look to use it. So like here, Bard jumps in. I do miss my E, but Zed and Trist were looking to come in, but I dropped my ult, even though Bard ulted himself because I didn't want Zed to try anything, and I pushed Zed and Tristana off the kill. We pick up a free easy kill. It wasn't the best, but we picked up a free kill, and I guaranteed that none of us were going to die. Like you see, that's some solid damage right there. And an important thing to note is Vel Koz is there's certain situations like with Zed where they're very predictable where they're going to go, especially back to their shadow, and whenever you think they're about to go, get ready to use your E and you should be able to pick up a pretty easy kill. You'll just knock them up, hit them with your Q, and just drop your load. Of course, you can't win every game, but as long as you farm, push lane, and roam, you should be able to do pretty well. It can be hard to leave your lane at times. Like what I was saying before, you should really try to push your lane and then roam. Make sure you tell your teammates. But at times, you can't really do this because sometimes the laner that you're playing against is someone who can push quite easily. Like Katarina, they have no mana cost and they can push the lane easily. And especially if you feel like you're winning and you can kill them 1v1, you might just stay in lane. Like you saw there, I didn't quite kill her, but I did completely push her out of lane. She's missing a lot of CS, so it's still worth it. But Vel Koz is, you want to avoid picking him against assassin-based champions. Picking him against people like Zed and Yasuo can be extremely challenging. A lot of times you'll have to play passive, and all you can do is try to push lane. Especially if they're good, it can be quite challenging. And yeah, so basically try to avoid him against assassin-based champions, and you'll be pretty much good to go. Try to pick him against people who have low mobility. You can't play him against assassins. Like in this game against Katarina, you can actually do quite well because you can out-push her pretty well, and you can out-damage her, and you have more range than her. So you can harass her with your auto-attacks. If she hits you with her Q, you hit her with an auto-attack and a W. You won't get off both parts of your W because your W has the initial damage and then it detonates after like a half a second. But you'll get off the initial part and auto-attack, and hopefully if she's running away, you can land a Q. But it's also important to note, whenever you're playing against a high mobility assassin that has a jump like Katarina, don't panic and use your E too early. It's important to save it. So for Katarina, for instance, you want to use it after she's jumped to you or after she's used her jump. Otherwise, you're going to miss it. Same with Zed. Don't use your knock-up on Zed, your E, until he's used his ultimate on you when you're fighting him 1v1. Or you can tell he's about to ult you. Don't use your E on him because you're going to miss it. And you're going to die because that's your only way to stop him and to land your combo. So it's better to save it till after they've used their jump or slippery maneuver. So yeah. This is a bit of a funny clip. Katarina did take teleport as well, which I think is kind of stupid for Katarina because if she doesn't take Knight, she can't really beat you. And a lot of times your opponents will underestimate how hard you can push and how much damage you do. Like what you see here, I didn't even have my ult and I killed her with 3 spells and an auto attack. Like, that's how easily Katarina died. If you're in a bad situation, your ultimate can usually get you out of it. It has extremely high base damage, so don't underestimate it, and it also has really good range. Whenever you're playing Vel'coz, I do suggest you put all of your abilities on smart cast, meaning whenever you click the key corresponding to that ability, whether it be your Q, W, E, or ultimate, it will automatically go off in the direction that your cursor is pointing. If you do that, if you put in time and work into Vel'coz, you can really make him effective, and if you land a spell, you can easily follow it up with the rest of your spells in a fraction of a second because you're not having to do those extra clicks. Vel'coz has I'd say a medium learning curve. It's not really super complex. I'd consider Orianna more difficult than Vel'coz because she has a lot more utility and a lot more things to manage. But with Vel'coz, he has, like I said, a decent learning curve. It'll take you probably 5 to 10 games. If you're not very good at League, it'll probably take you 10 to 20 games to get really comfortable with him. And when you do, your timing will be really nice to where you can like scope people out right when they're about to come out of Hourglass Roll and die instantly, or Bard's ult and stuff like that. I'm trying to show you guys as many matchups as like possible that's like realistic because I want you guys to get a pretty good feel. So like I was saying earlier, try to avoid the Yasuo matchup because it can be really difficult, especially if he's good. When he does dash on you, simply back up, and as you're backing up, you can lay down your W and it won't stop your movement. So right as he's coming onto you, lay down your W so he'll have to walk through it, and when he's about to stun you or Q you, knock him up with your E, because of that, when he goes to Q, even if you're going to trade damage for your spells for his Q, when he goes to Q and you knock him up, he won't be able to lay down his wind wall as he's queuing. So right when he queues, like you saw there, he had his tornado up and he queued. I E'd him and laid my spells down on him, and I didn't even have to use my ultimate, and I got a free kill on him. Just remember, don't panic. Drop your W down and walk across it. If he chases you, he's going to get hit by both procs. If he runs away, he's going to get hit by the first part of your W. And if he tries to Q you, like I said, just hit him up with your E and fuck him up. Remember that positioning is key with Vel'coz, and it'll teach you positioning. You have to land your spells smart and methodically. And as you saw, I kept my position to where I was close enough to the tower to where if Yasuo would jump me with his ultimate, that the tower would be hitting him, and he knows he wouldn't want to do that, so therefore he didn't. So I picked up an easy kill on Vel'coz with no threat of the enemy Yasuo or Lulu. Like I mentioned earlier, Vel'coz is a freaking beast once you hit level 6. You pretty much want to push lane there. I didn't waste my spells because I wanted my E to be up. But once you hit level 6, you can go ahead and roam. And once you do that, you're going to be really dangerous because with all your spells, you have pretty much more damage than anybody else, plus their AoE. So I just come in, I used my E, my W, my Q, and then my ultimate, and we picked up 3 easy kills, and we transferred that into a dragon and a tower and an easy win. Hope you guys took something away from this guy. You can learn a lot from it, and just get out there and try Vel'coz. He's loads of fun. Best of luck.